Now, we are in topic 1, transport system, in organisms. Cells in living things get oxygen, and nutrients, from external environment. Cells in living things, eliminate carbon dioxide, and other waste products, to the external environment. Both of the processes are carried out, through diffusion. By the way, for you to recall, diffusion is the process of movement of particles, from higher concentration area, to a lower concentration area. This is what we learnt, from Form 1 Science, Chapter 5, Matter. This means that, oxygen able to diffuse, into the cell. Because, the concentration of oxygen content in the cell, is lower, if compared to its environment. The rest of the substances, which diffuse in, and out, of the cell, follows the same rule. Transport system, is the system, carrying substances, before, or after the diffusion occur. Simple organisms, or, we call them, unicellular organisms. They do not have a specialized transport system. Simple organisms get oxygen and nutrients, from external environment, via direct diffusion. Simple organisms, eliminate carbon dioxide, and wastes, to external environment, via direct diffusion. About complex organisms, or, we call them as, multicellular organisms. They have a specialized transport system. Complex organisms, need a transport system to distribute the received oxygen, and nutrients to body, before they diffuse into cells. At the meantime, complex organisms, need a transport system to collect the eliminated carbon dioxide, and waste, after they diffuse out from cells. Now, we are in topic 2, blood circulatory system. The specialized transport system in animals, is blood circulatory system. Blood circulatory system is the system at which, blood flows continuously in blood vessels, to all parts of the body, in one complete cycle, through the heart. There are 3 main components of blood circulatory system. The first component is, the blood. Blood is the medium, that transports substances. The second component is, the heart. Heart is the component, that pumps blood, through the blood vessels of the circulatory system. The third component is, blood vessels. Blood vessels are channels or conduits, through which, blood is distributed to body tissues. Now, we talk about, types of blood circulatory system. Type of blood circulatory system, among human, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, birds, and fish, are different. And, they can be differentiated, by checking the following 4 characteristics. The first characteristic is, the number of time, blood enter the heart in one circulation cycle. Based on this characteristic, it can be classified into 2 categories. They are single, and double type. Single type, is the circulatory system, at which, blood only enter the heart once, in a cycle. You can find this kind of blood circulatory system, in fish. At the meantime, double type, is the circulatory system at which, blood only enter the heart twice, in a cycle. You can find this kind of blood circulatory system in amphibians, reptiles, mammals, and bird. About the second characteristic of blood circulatory system, the blood vessels looping. It is either, a closed blood vessels looping, or, an opened blood vessels looping. A closed blood vessels looping blood circulatory system, is found in all vertebrates, and some invertebrates. At which, the system circulates blood unidirectionally, from the heart, to around the body. And, back to the heart, through blood vessels. The blood circulatory system in amphibians, fish, reptiles, mammals, and birds are the closed blood vessels looping. About the blood circulatory system of opened blood vessels looping. It is found in arthropods, at which it pumps blood into a cavity called a hemocoel, where it surrounds the organs and then returns to the heart through ostia instead of blood vessels. The third characteristic of blood circulatory system is the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood separation status. This is either a complete or incomplete blood circulatory system, at which, in a complete blood circulatory system, the oxygenated and the deoxygenated blood are separated. At which, in an incomplete blood circulatory system, the oxygenated and the deoxygenated blood are mixed. Heart chamber is the muscle pump of heart, to pump in blood into the heart, and pump out blood from the heart. At which, the chamber atrium is to pump in blood to the heart, from the body. Meanwhile, the chamber ventricle is to pump out blood from the heart, to the body. This table shows the characteristic of blood circulatory system, of each kind of animals. About amphibians. Amphibians have a double, closed looping, an incomplete blood circulatory system. This blood circulatory system has 3 chambers: ventricle, right atrium, and left atrium. About fish. Fish have a single, closed looping, and complete blood circulatory system. Fish heart has 2 chambers, the ventricle and atrium. About reptiles. Reptiles have a double, closed looping, an incomplete blood circulatory system. This blood circulatory system has 3 chambers: ventricle, right atrium, and left atrium. About mammals and birds. Mammals and birds have a double, closed looping, and complete blood circulatory system. The blood circulatory system has 4 chamber: right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle, and left ventricle. Now, we talk about blood circulatory system in humans. In human blood circulatory system, blood is pumped from heart to all parts of the body through specialized blood vessels. There are 3 different blood vessels, at which blood will be first pumped to arteries from the heart. Secondly, the blood diverted from arteries to capillaries. Through capillaries, the substances are diffused in between blood and organs. Thirdly, the blood from capillaries will be diverted to veins, and blood will be diverted back to heart again via veins. The human blood circulatory system is a double circulatory system, at which blood will flow through the heart twice in a complete circulation cycle. The double circulation system consists of pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation, at which pulmonary circulation is the blood circulation from heart to lungs and then back to heart, while systemic circulation is the blood circulation from heart to other parts of body and then back to the heart. Now, we talk about structure and functions of the human heart. About the size of the human heart. This is about the size of a fist. About the location of heart in a human body. The human heart is located within the thoracic cavity, between 2 lungs. About the structure of the heart is made up of cardiac muscle. The heart of human consists of 4 chambers, at which there are 2 right chamber, the right atrium, and the right ventricle. And there are 2 left chamber, the left atrium, and the left ventricle. We first talk about the right chambers. In general, right chambers function to pump the deoxygenated blood from the body to lungs, at which the right atrium receives the blood from the body and push the blood to the right ventricle. Right atrium receives the blood from the body through the vena cava. Right atrium will contract to push the blood into the right ventricle through the tricuspid valve. Right ventricle will expand to receive the blood from the right atrium through the tricuspid valve. Right ventricle will contract, to push the blood to lungs, through the semilunar valve, and the pulmonary artery. About the left chambers, the left atrium, and the left ventricle. In general, left chambers function to pump the oxygenated blood from lungs to the body, at which the left atrium receives the oxygenated blood from lungs through the pulmonary veins. And then, the left atrium contract to push the oxygenated blood to the left ventricle via the bicuspid valve. The left ventricle will expand to receive the blood from the left atrium through the bicuspid valve. The left ventricle will contract to push the blood to the body through the semilunar valve and the aorta. We have just discussed how the blood is pumped by the heart through its chambers. Now, we talk about valves in the heart. The function of valves in the heart is to ensure the blood flow in one direction. Valves will open to allow blood flow through it, and close to block the reverse flow of the blood. There is one tricuspid valvea at the right chamber. It is in between right atrium and right ventricle. Tricuspid valve is to ensure blood always flow from the right atrium to the right ventricle. There are two semilunar valves at exit of right and left chamber. There is one bicuspid valve at the left chamber. Bicuspid valve allows the oxygenated blood flow from left atrium to left ventricle. Last but not least, there is a muscle wall, the septum. It is located in between the left and the right chambers. Septum function to separate the left and right chamber. This has ensured the deoxygenated blood at the right chamber doesn't mix with the oxygenated blood at the left chamber. For your ease in memorizing the structure and the function of heart, you can imagine that the heart is a square with two columns and two rows. Each of the portion is representing a chamber. The upper row is always the atrium, and its function is to pull in the blood from the outside. The lower row is always the ventricle, and its function is always to push out the blood from the heart. The first column of the square is the right chamber, it always dealing with deoxygenated blood, at which the deoxygenated blood flow is always from the body to lungs. The second column of the square is the left chambers, it always dealing with oxygenated blood. The oxygenated blood flow is always from lungs to the body. The line in between the upper row and the lower row is valves. They are the tricuspid valve at the right chamber and the bicuspid valve at the left chamber respectively. The bottom line of the square is the two blood exit valves, they are semilunar valve, and the center vertical line of the square is representing the septum wall of the heart. For the conclusion of the functions of the human heart. The heart functions to pump blood through the blood vessels of the circulatory system. The right side of heart pumps the deoxygenated blood from the body tissue to lungs. The left side of heart pumps the oxygenated blood from lungs to the body tissue. Now, we talk about the structure and functions of main blood vessels. There are three main blood vessels in blood circulatory system. The first is arteries, it transfer blood away from the heart. The second is capillaries, it is the fine vessel network that distributed at the whole body. So, substances can be exchanged between blood and body cells. The third kind of blood vessels is veins. It functions to transfer blood to the heart, at which it recollected the blood from capillaries and transfer them to the heart. Generally, blood vessels have the following three components for their structure. The first is vessel wall. The second is valves. The third is lumen. Each of the blood vessels, with their components of structure, will be discussed in the next part of the video. We first talk about the arteries. Arteries have a thicker wall, if compared to capillaries and vein. Because it experience a higher blood pressure from the heart. There are no valves, is found in the arteries. The lumen in arteries is small. Lumen is the opening of arteries. About the function of arteries. Arteries function to transfer blood away from the heart, at which it transports oxygenated blood to the body, except lungs. And the two pulmonary arteries transport deoxygenated blood to lungs. About the circulation of blood in arteries. The blood pressure inside arteries is high. The blood flow speed inside arteries is high. We able to detect pulses at the arteries. Now, we talk about capillaries. About the structure of capillaries. Capillaries have the thinnest vessels wall, if compared to arteries and veins. The thickness is as thin as one cell size. No valve is found in capillaries. About the lumen, or the opening of capillaries, it is the smallest, if compared to arteries and veins. About the function of capillaries. Capillaries is the vein network that distributed at the whole body. To allow substances exchange between the blood and body cells through diffusion process. About circulation of blood in capillaries. The blood from an artery will be diverted to capillaries. Hence, the blood pressure will be shared in capillaries and become low. The blood flow speed in capillaries is slow. There are no pulse is detectable from capillaries. Now, we talk about veins. About the structure of veins. The vessel wall of veins is thin. It is thinner than arteries, but thicker than capillaries. In veins, there are valves to ensure blood flow in one direction. The lumen, or opening of veins, is large. About the function of veins. Veins function to transfer blood from the body to the heart. Veins transport deoxygenated blood from the body, except lungs, to the heart. Pulmonary veins transport oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. About the circulation of blood in veins. The blood pressure in veins is low. The blood flow speed is slow. And no pulse is detectable from veins. Now, we talk about the heartbeat. Heartbeat is the pulsation of the heart, described as a dub and a loop that occur in each of the heartbeat. The follows are the condition about the dub sound of a heartbeat. This condition is known as diastole. Diastole is happened when ventricles relax and semilunar valves close, at which blood flowing into and filling the heart. The pressure reading of the diastole condition is known as diastolic pressure reading. The follows are the condition about the loop sound of a heartbeat. This condition is known as systole. Systole is happened when ventricles contract, tricuspid and bicuspid valves close, at which blood flowing out of the heart. The pressure reading of the systole condition is known as systolic pressure reading. Now, we talk about the measurement of blood pressure. Blood pressure can be measured using a sphygmomanometer. Blood pressure can be measured in two reading: systolic pressure reading and diastolic pressure reading. The systolic pressure reading of a youth is normally 120 mm Hg, and the diastolic pressure reading is 75 mm Hg. The reading will be written as 120/75 mm Hg. Now, we talk about the pulse rate. The pulse rate is the number of heartbeat within 1 minute. It is measured in unit BPM, heartbeat per minute. You can get the pulse rate by counting the heartbeat in 1 minute. By counting the heartbeat in 30 seconds, and multiply it by 2. By counting the heartbeat in 10 seconds, and multiply it by 6. The follows are 4 factors, which influence the pulse rate. The age of an individual. The body health of an individual. The gender of an individual. The intensity of a physical activity, which executed by an individual. These 4 factors, which influence the heart pulse rate of an individual, will be detailed in the next section. About the influence of the age of an individual to his pulse rate. According to surveys, the pulse rate of an individual decrease when he's age getting elder. About the influence of the body health of an individual to his pulse rate. An unhealthy individual will have a higher or lower pulse rate. If compared to the condition when the individual is in healthy condition. If the pulse rate are too high or too low, it will thin our life. About the influence of the gender of an individual to his pulse rate. Females have a smaller size of heart than males, and this causes females to have a higher pulse rate. The smaller size heart pumps less blood for each heartbeat and needs to beat at a much higher rate. About the influence of the intensity of physical activity of an individual to his pulse rate. A vigorous activity will need more energy. To have more energy, more oxygen is needed. Hence, the heart will pump blood more rapidly to transport the oxygenated blood to cells. If you like my video, please click like and share this video to others who need it. Don't forget to subscribe my channel. Your subscription is my motivation to continue the making of videos. Thank you for watching.